Welcome, everybody, to LiveLARGE Universe. It's another Sunday night, 7 p.m. Pacific time. Come on in. We have an amazing show for you tonight again. So as you come on in, let us know where you're watching from. That's the most important thing that we need to know about you, the audience. When you drop in the comments where you're watching from, whether it be Alaska, whether it be California, whether it be Michigan, Minnesota, North Dakota, Colorado, who knows where we're from. But let's go ahead and drop that in the comments right now. Let us know where you're watching from. And we will get you in to win some amazing Fly Snow goggles. So the Fly Snow Zone Pro goggles are, again, up for grabs just for sharing the show. If you share the show out right now and drop it in the comments, let us know where you're watching from. So we've got some live viewers starting to roll in right now. Let's see some of those comments drop in next. We want to make sure that that is happening now. So, all right. I am going to spot check something real quick, Sally, while we are chiming in here. I can go over to Facebook on my phone, make sure I have this show set to public, which I do. So we should be good to go. So Roger Anderson is here from Ely, Minnesota. Who else is watching? Drop it in the comments right now and let us know who's watching. Brian Regal, you're here from Washington State. Appreciate you coming in. Again, reminder, folks, if you get this show shared out, you're in to win some Zone Pro goggles from Fly Racing Snow. So follow Fly Racing on Facebook and on Instagram, and they'll get you hooked up with some amazing goggles just by being here. Devin, appreciate you being here too from Wyoming. Got a lot of folks starting to roll in. So share this out, folks. We're going to get things going. So Sally, I'm going to drop down my little goggle picture here in 3, 2, and 1. How are you doing, Sally?
I'm doing great. Great. Thanks for
Awesome.
having me on.
Awesome. So Sally, I've been doing this show, geez, let me think about this, exactly for 4 years now. I just thought of this. Literally April 22nd, 2018. So this last April 22nd would have been my 4-year anniversary of the show. It totally spaced it out. But you know what? All of the episodes I've done, all the things I've done, this show actually has me a little excited, nervous, a little giddy, because I have never had a coworker from my professional day job, which now currently is at Microsoft Xbox. But in any of my past episodes, I've never had anybody that I've worked with professionally on the show. And so this is a huge, exciting honor for me personally to have someone that I work with on a regular basis to be here today. So say hi to everybody watching and check in with you. How are you doing for the weekend?
I'm great. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on. This is my first podcast that I've ever been on. Listened to a lot of them, so I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, yeah, the traditional podcast, everybody think of just as audio, but like the format is very podcast-esque. So
Yeah.
call it
Yeah,
a podcast, but kind of a video vlog podcast, all the above.
sure.
So,
Yep.
but yeah, so we have Ian here, Kevin is here, Devin is here. We've got a few other folks watching too. We've got a live audience. So again, folks, if you haven't already, share the show out, get in to win some Fly Racing goggles. So, Sally, this is amazing. So we need to learn a little bit about you. Who's Sally? Where did you grow up? Where do you live now? We obviously figured out that you work at Microsoft, but
Yep.
give us the elevator pitch on who is Sally Seitz.
Yeah. Well, my name is Sally Seitz. I'm was born and raised in Washington in the Seattle area, and I continue to live in Snoqualmie, Washington, which is about 20 minutes out of Seattle
Yep.
without traffic. Um, and my husband and I are both locals. We did a brief stint in San Francisco where our daughter was born 9 years ago.
Wow,
So we can say that we've lived outside of the state, but we are both Washington is home. So
that
we've
is
been here ever
awesome.
since.
That is
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, in full disclosure, everybody, this is unique too. Is Sally is not a snowmobiler. We actually, most of the people we have on here, Sally, have you ever even been on a snowmobile?
I have. I
Tell us
have.
about your we have to work this in. I didn't talk to you about this before, but let's work this in. Tell us about
I know.
your snowmobile experience. Where and when and what happened?
I was in college. I used to go, I went to college in Bellingham, Washington, at Western Washington University. And I used to go up to Whistler, Canada a lot
Okay.
in the wintertime. And there was a place, I'm totally forgetting where, but it's a lake that would freeze over. And
Yep.
then we covered in snow and you'd go around in the snowmobile. And I grew up on ATVs,
Yeah.
uh, three wheelers. Remember
Okay.
those?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously became four-wheelers. It's
Yep.
not that I was really avid on them, but we had
Yeah.
them. And the snowmobile was it was an interesting, it was very powerful, and I wasn't ready for that. So
Yeah.
it was fun, but a little scary. I'm not going to lie.
Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
haven't been on one since, but I
Awesome.
love to ski. I love to, I love to be outside and
Yep.
hike and all that, but
So you can.
I'll leave the snowmobiling to the experts.
All right, all right. Well, we'll keep that going. But yeah,
Yeah.
let me share with everybody here, kind of why I approached you about coming on the show here. So, um, on a weekly basis at Microsoft, we have at the North America level a weekly call called ACES, and so that ACES call every Friday. There's a lot of little things. We have guest speakers on there. There's recognition on there. A lot of various kind of odds and ends, but it's more of a positive, upbeat, inspirational type of a end of week call, kind of wrapping up one week, getting you ready for the next week. And once a month, yours truly, Sally here, does a segment called, what do you call it, Sally? What's your segment on a monthly
The
basis?
monthly cup of mindfulness.
This is awesome, guys.
Yeah.
So, for the folks who watch my show regularly, you all know that, for me, I'm kind of a big sap, right? Like I'm kind of got a huge heart, like doing a lot of things for a lot of people. And, this idea of cup of mindfulness and what Sally brings to the meeting every month is I always am like really tuned in because it's always meaningful regardless of what the topic is. But, one of the recent topics was one that I just like jumped out of my chair about, and I was like, "Oh my God, Sally is describing my life right now." Like I was just so excited, and I don't remember how long it was after you had read your segment. It might have been live in the middle of it, even for all I remember. But I had reached out to
Wasn't
you.
long after,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was shortly afterwards, and I reached out to you, and I just shared with you how meaningful the segment was. And as we were chatting, I threw out the idea of like, Sally, what do you think about coming on to Live Large Universe and sharing it with the rest of the world and getting it out there? Because I think the idea of, the topic, why don't you just share with us kind of what the higher level topic was of that particular segment that you did? Do you remember?
The segment was, it was mindful hobbies.
Yeah.
So it's basically how hobbies can help us. Mindfulness is being here in the present without judgment.
Yeah.
So being here now, and hobbies can help us be, when we're super stressed and kind of just not feeling ourselves, lots of anxiety. Hobbies can actually help us calm and get back to center. Basically,
That's
they just
awesome.
make us. They make you happy in ways that you just don't may not know or understand why.
Yep, absolutely true, absolutely true. And like living proof of this segment here that we're going to talk about. But let me just go back to the audience here for a minute too, everybody. So I've got Rick Scherzel here from Wisconsin. We've got Chris Sentence here from New England. He's out in Massachusetts watching, so it's fairly late out there on the East Coast right now. We have Jan Olhauser from North Dakota and a few others coming in now too. So again, everybody, if you're watching, thanks for dropping in the comments, letting know you're from, and don't forget to share the show out tonight because tonight's episode literally could change someone's life because I'll just share with you guys that this live large idea, we'll kind of wrap this up at the end again too, but living life to the fullest, make the most of every day and make a difference to others. And I think this segment that we're going to read through tonight is going to help some people kind of focus their life a little bit, because I think there's many people that I know that follow the show and otherwise who are really in their mind they're just the daily grind. They're doing their job and they're pushing themselves into it, and they think that that is the focus that they have to focus on 24/7 nonstop. Like, that's their career, their life, or otherwise. And what they don't realize is that that little guilty pleasure they have of executing a hobby, and it doesn't matter what that hobby is, but something that you can focus on and clear your mind, and maybe it's physical, maybe it's just mental, maybe it's both, a combination of both, but that ability to disconnect sometimes from what we call our day job or our main focus in life, and to have a release, it's a very centering, right, and very focused. But before we dive into it, because I'm actually, I've actually asked, and this is very uncommon for my show, but I've actually asked Sally to read what she read in the presentation there. But before we do that, Sally, talk to me a little bit about the idea of the cup of mindfulness, where it came from, and ultimately why it was important for you personally to
Sure.
do this, because it's a big deal. Like, I mean, you're putting yourself out there on a monthly basis amongst your colleagues at work and
Yeah.
putting yourself out there, right? And so what was the root of what drove you to start doing this cup of mindfulness, and where did that idea come from?
Sure. Well, it was interesting. I'm on the Xbox, the category side, if that means anything to anybody.
Probably
But
not.
no, I said
outside of
that and I know it's
yeah,
coming out.
outside of our circle,
So,
nobody knows what that means probably.
right. So anyway, I'm gonna just forget the details there. I was in a meeting
Yep.
where it was a larger group of us, and we had a guest speaker that she was there to do a meditation. And
Yep.
I've done yoga before. I've done other things. I've done visualization and stuff like that. But I was having a very stressful day. And I'm in this meeting, she wants us to take 8 minutes of our time to like close our eyes and focus. And meanwhile, my phone is blowing up with a coworker who needed an answer on something ASAP. And I'm just like, I can't be mindful right now. I can't meditate. Like, no, I was just, no, this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
But then I look around the room and, the lights are off and everybody's kind of doing it. And I was like, fine, there's leadership in here. Just do it. So I kind of turned my phone off, or I don't know what I did. I got it out of my sight so it wouldn't bother me. And we did this meditation, the deep breath, focus on the breath. And I think it was at least 8 minutes or something like that. It was short. And afterwards, it was night and day. I felt relaxed. I felt refreshed. I felt like a light went on. It's like the heavens opened up, something, you're just like, okay, that worked. Something just happened. I liked that. I want to do more of it. Like, how do I, like, I'm one of those people that if I like something, I like it happens. Like, I want to do everything I can
Yeah.
to do, like, I get very passionate about it. And so it was just like a light bulb went off, like, okay, this might be my thing. And like, I think I'm not even sure how long I'd been with the team at that
Yeah.
point. But I just was, trying to find where I could get my thing, like do my thing outside of
Yeah.
Xbox
Well,
games or
let
whatever.
me interject a little
Yeah.
bit, because, like, some of the folks who watch, work in a corporate office setting like we do, but others don't, right? And so let me just
Yeah.
describe this environment from my point of view, and maybe this will help kind of elaborate on what you're saying. Is, you know, I think all of us as individuals, especially in a professional work environment, we want to be recognized, we want to be
Yeah.
noticed, we want to contribute. We don't want to be necessarily, most of us, to just like kind of blanks, white space on the wall, right? Like, we don't want to just blend in. And I
Yeah.
think,
Totally.
but what also is going to motivate, and I think that the standard thing is like, okay, let's do something big with our business, or let's do something big with the data or the numbers or whatever. And I
Yeah.
think most people think about, how do you stand out in a way performance wise that just everybody recognizes and notices you, right? And I
Well,
think
it's impact.
it's
Yeah. How do
impact.
I make
Like, how
impact?
do you
Yep.
make, that's a perfect word, right? It's like, what kind of an impact can you make? And I would share with you that specifically inside of a company like Microsoft, very much from the top down, the culture of the company is a high priority for the company, right? And it's something that we all value highly within Microsoft, is this idea of, how do we add to the culture? How do we bring, call it inner peace, if you will, to our team, our teammates? How do we contribute to humanity? Like, think of it that way, right?
Totally.
Versus like
Purpose.
just commit it
Yeah.
to the budget. We all have to do that anyway. Like, to me, that's table stakes, right? We got to contribute to the budget, but how do we contribute to our fellow humans that we work with every day? And
Yeah.
this is one of those examples of why it's so meaningful. Is it's above and beyond just normal business work stuff. And
And the corp speak or the business
yeah,
speak and
yeah,
the stuff that drives a lot of us crazy.
yeah. And
We don't
frankly,
have that
it's
mindfulness.
yeah, and frankly, it's one of the things that I really, I've been at Microsoft now a little over a year and a half, and it's one of the things that I just very much enjoy, working there because of these type of things. And
Yeah, the
so,
prioritization.
yep,
Totally.
very cool. So,
And so, it took me a while to kind of figure out what I wanted to do with this. And, I just would talk to people like my manager, skip level, or even our Elisa, our vice president, just like, I want to do something with this. I'm not sure what that means. I wanted to
yeah,
start small with uh, my group and then grow it out to our North American group.
yeah,
Well, to come to find out, Elise, our vice president, was really wanting to prioritize mindfulness and mental health and taking care. And this was before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it just worked out. And I think it was 2020 that they wanted me to do a segment on ACEs.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, they want to do it monthly. It wasn't just going to be me, but it turns out that I was the only one who was doing it,
Yep.
and people liked it. I think there was one person that stepped in for me when I was out on leave once, but I started with, it was January,
Mm-hmm.
and again, pre-pandemic, but I started with intention. So instead, setting intention, instead of like we all set our New Year's resolutions, but resolutions, they cause us to judge ourselves later. So like, oh, I'm not working out all the time like I wanted to. I'm just sitting here, or I want to quit drinking for January, but I just want that glass of wine or a beer or whatever, like it just causes us to just feel bad about ourselves if we're not, getting to that point we want to be setting or achieving that goal. So setting intention is more like, okay, I want to, or like some of us parents are like, I want to be more patient with my kids. Well, that's just meaning you're not patient enough. Like I want to make that attempt to be more patient. How am I going to do that? I'm going to practice patience with my children because it's practice. Like nobody's perfect. It's, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes, I always forget this word, but it's progress.
Yeah.
There we
Progress.
go.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's just not judging ourselves. It's just, we're all human.
Very good.
We can't possibly get it right every time.
Very good. Very good.
That was my first topic, and it
Awesome.
it went well. And
Yeah.
here I am.
And
a
again,
year later.
I've enjoyed all of the ones I've been able to observe and watch and be part of watching it. But this one particular stood out to me, and I asked you to kind of share it with my audience. And let's go ahead and dive into it. And so I'll just kind of set this up, guys. Is being on a live broadcast, the nerves for all of us, sometimes run, especially when we're going to get into a point where we're reading something, and we're gonna, at work on the whiteboard, sometimes you put the little check mark in the corner that says, hey, that means anything I misspell on the whiteboard is like, the spell check, it's already in place, so everything's good. So the same thing for a video broadcast. If there's I'll put the little check box right here that if you stumble at all through the whole thing, you're pre-approved to just keep rolling. So
thank you for not judging me as we were joking earlier. It's 7:00 Pacific time on a Sunday.
Yeah.
We finally got some sunshine. I was outside today. My brain's a little fried, but here we go. This
awesome.
is important.
Awesome. All right, guys.
All right. So how do hobbies evolve our mindset? They give us something to focus on that's not work. You can set goals with your hobby that motivate you and give you something to strive for that is stress-free, unlike career goals, and help you take your mind off of your concerns. And to take advantage of this, choose an interest with inherent goals and one that is not related to work. Some hobbies increase productivity by making us use time more efficiently. Another benefit of hobbies for evolving the mindset is that they train us to schedule our time, and this makes us more productive. Science tells us that when we give ourselves more time to finish work, we intentionally use all of the time, even if we don't need to. Scheduling activities forces us to work more efficiently on other things. One way to take advantage of this is to choose a hobby that will demand a certain amount of time. Running a marathon, for instance. Marathons demand a certain amount of training. Taking those hours away from work means we have to be more efficient when working. You won't see me running a marathon, but bless those that do. I wish I just, can't go there, but I love it that when that's a great goal. Another benefit of hobbies for mental health is that they exercise our brain. I totally agree with this. Many people get stuck in a repetitive routine, doing the same thing continually. Workaholics, and I think some of us can be guilty of that. We're always working, and most forms of work only include a set number of mental activities. For example, a career in finance tests our math and business skills, but there are many areas of the brain that are not used at all. Activities can complement your work by exercising your brain in different ways. For example, if you are in a logical, order-based role, find a creative hobby, painting, textiles, whatever, photography. If you're a creative person, find a hobby that is more logic and order-based. I think my mom, help me out, Sudoku?
Sudoku.
Is that right?
Sudoku.
Sure. Sudoku. I can never remember.
All good.
But just that, just something with numbers.
Yep.
That just kind of trains your brain, like even a crossword puzzle. If you're always working alone, find a social activity like dancing or acting. Same if you're social, find a hobby to do alone, creative or order based, something that just kind of gets you to focus on the moment. One common pitfall that many people fall into is that they spend too long being passive. They're idly using Facebook, and Facebook is great. Facebook is awesome. We love our Facebook. It's just not, it shouldn't be our hobby. Channel hopping, etc. The kind of activity, it decreases our self-awareness and can lead to mental health problems like anxiety, because we're just constantly scrolling, or we get into that rhythm of like comparing ourselves to the perfection we see. That's kind of what the point of that one is. And it is far healthier to focus on one activity and truly get wrapped up in it. Although my husband would disagree. I get a little too wrapped up when I focus. This distracts us from stresses and helps us relax. Choose activities that you can get fully wrapped up in. It's such that you forget about your stresses. So running and yoga are two of the best hobbies to evolving mindset. They make us want to improve ourselves. And when doing either, one gets completely engrossed in them. They're total chill out fests. It's awesome. Running is it there, and they couldn't be more different, running and yoga.
Yeah.
And personally for me, like I'm here to out myself as somebody, my hobby is macrame.
That's awesome.
Artful knot tying. It's something I got into in the pandemic, and there's just something like, it's something I could do while sitting in a meeting while working from home. I wouldn't do it while I'm in the office. It's awkward. But it just actually helps me with productivity, because I'm creating something, but I'm calm and I can think through the stresses more rationally. Like I find myself working on a piece and thinking about, okay, so here's the problem I need to solve at work. It just helps calm, and then it's easier to work through things when you're calm.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a hobby and you want to know how to come up with one, just think about things that make you happy and less stressed. For example, what are you currently missing? Is there anything you'd like to add to your current lifestyle? And what health need could your hobby help with? Do you need more cardio? Are you exercising your brain enough? Are you spending enough time outdoors? One interest would you like further? Most hobbies come from choosing one interest and running with it. And so what skills would you like to have? I'm sure that spending enough time outdoors really resonated with you, John. I think you do spend a lot of time outdoors, and I think that makes you happy.
Preach, Sally, preach.
Yeah. It's just, we can always count on John. Like, okay, like we had to post a picture of something that made us happy. And when you posted snowmobile, everyone's like, of course,
of course
John on a snowmobile.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Was that it, or was there more?
That was it. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect. No worries. Yeah, so there's a few things in there that, stick out to me, right? One is the idea, and this is a good thing to talk about, because I think for those who are on Facebook or other social media, let's talk about it for a minute, because, one thing that I do with this show is I'm creating content that is educational, right? And I think my goal for everybody who watches this show is they're coming in, they're being entertained, but they walk away thinking like, oh my gosh, I learned something today. And it doesn't matter if it's avalanche safety, riding skills, they've, somebody who's been through an accident of some kind and what went right, what went wrong. Today we're talking about mindfulness, and kind of, I think of all of this in this context of, work-life balance, or like just, harmony, peace of mind. But like here's what I tell people about like what snowmobiling means to me, the activity of snowmobiling. So there's a larger umbrella of what I do around people. I won't go into that in the moment, but when I think about the hobby of actual riding a snowmobile or riding my motorcycle, today I was out with my wife, or we're out jeeping. Macrame, no different, right? And it literally is this. It's the idea that you are pouring yourself into a singular thing that allows you to be so focused that the rest of the world disappears, right? And so you think about that for a minute, like you just close your eyes for a minute, which I love that, right? And I ask everybody to just like close your eyes for a minute at home and think about that. Like when you're in your Zen place, in your hobby, and you're like, for me, my dream state is like I'm riding my snowmobile, side hilling through a bunch of trees, and I have to pick my line, and I'm looking for the openings, right? I'm looking for the openings, and I can't hit the trees, or I'm gonna get hurt, wreck my sled, or whatever. And so it's very intense. It needs a lot of like focus and skill. And when I'm doing that, there's nothing else on this planet that matters other than the next 50 feet in front of me. And guess what? When you're doing that, you have just cleared your mind of all stress, all, other than the stress of the moment, right? But
Right. Well,
anything that
yeah.
you're worried about at work, or if you have something in a relationship, or you're worried about what your kids are doing or whatever,
Mhm.
in that moment, you are so intensely focused on what you're doing that you can just like clear your mind. And then for me, the physical activity of snowmobiling, which most people who are snowmobilers completely understand, but those who aren't, like it's a very intense physical sport, like all day long. Like I come off the mountain, I'm just, like I worked out all day
Yeah.
basically. I'm sweaty, right?
Yeah.
And the idea of like getting in there, and so I come to work after a weekend like this, physically exhausted, but mentally cleansed, right? And so when I come back to work on Monday morning with Sally and we're sitting in a meeting together, now my body is at rest. I can let my
Hmm.
body rest, but my mind is so focused and clear that I can dive right back into work and be effective right from the morning, right? And
Totally.
this is something else I want to share with everybody a little bit too. Is Sally referenced this, but one thing I want my audience here to know is that live large is John's life. It's not just a show. It's not just a hobby. It's not what it is. But I actually, I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, Sally, is like literally in my interview with, my manager, Mackenzie, Neil
Hmm.
Gordon, Jenny Fawcett, all these different names of
Hmm.
people who went through this interview and interviewed me. Live large was part of my talk track because it's so important to me and what it means to me. And the idea of, sharing myself and my philosophies and my values at work is something that, as you stated, pops up pretty consistently.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's
It's
you.
awesome.
That
Yep.
yeah. It's so it's great. Like that clearly is your passion, and people love it when people share their passion,
Yep.
and
Yep.
it just comes through.
That's awesome.
Because
So,
you can sit there in an interview and talk about, what are the three things you did to, most successful, or how did you work through a challenge? Like, yeah, important,
exactly.
but
Exactly.
not
Exactly.
everybody's going to have that. I don't. It's a brand, but it's also a lifestyle. To your
Yeah.
point, like
Well,
that's awesome.
and I think about the things of, living life to the fullest. Like think about your hobbies, think about work. Like
Hmm.
you're making the most of every day you're there. And that
Yep.
next bullet, which is make the most of every day, is Sally, you and I know that there's good days and there's bad days,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep.
And it's easy to make the best of a good day because you're on cloud nine, you're smiling, you're having a good day, everything going your way.
The
But
endorphins are just,
Yep,
yeah.
but those days where you just have a hard time just getting out of bed and trying to be
Yep.
motivated to like, oh my God, I can't go to this first meeting or whatever it is, and how do you
Totally.
make the most of those days, right? It's like, you smile a little bit, you figure out, you reach out to a friend, maybe you send somebody a message that you know is going to be uplifting and bring you some positivity in your life. There's things you can get through it, but make the most of it, right? It's like even on a
Yep.
bad day, there's actually I'll share this, Sally, is I don't know if you've done this with your family ever or not too, but it's with because you said your daughter's 9, if I remember right.
Yep. Yeah.
So this is perfect for that age. And if you
Hmm.
haven't started this, we've been doing this with our kids ever since they were little. Is
Hmm.
at dinner every night when we're sitting down for dinner, we
Hmm.
ask all of us the same question every night. And
Yeah.
everybody's
Yep.
expected to come to the table with an answer every day. And
Yeah.
the question is, what was the best part of your day?
Oh, we do the same thing. We have the
Do you?
exact same thing. Yeah,
Yep, that's
and I
exactly.
have to give my husband credit for it. He does that. And it's usually, I don't think we do it on the weekends, but we'll do it. We've been at work, we've been at
Yeah,
school. So what was your favorite part of the day?
yeah,
And we got a lot of answers like recess but whatever, they'll
yep,
eventually they figure out, they start to kind of
yeah,
realize the deeper meaning behind that. But I
yeah.
love that
And
tradition that we have. Yeah.
let's just state the obvious. The deeper meaning to that is getting people to think about the positive things in their life and the gratitude that they need to have for
Yes.
the little things in life. And when you're at dinner and someone says to you, let me think about it a minute. Actually, I think right now with all of you is the best
Yeah.
part of my day. That's one of the bad days, right? When someone comes to dinner and they say like the best part of their day was right now, that means that you're making their day better by asking them how their day went, but
Yeah.
also maybe they had a rough day that day, but they're making the most of it in the moment and sharing with each other,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
then finally, make a difference to others, right? And I think that's ultimately what I try to do with the show. Sally, you and I have, had, professional interactions at work. We've had personal interactions at work, and I can tell you for a fact that you make a difference in my life, and I'm grateful for that.
Oh, I love that.
Yep,
Thank
yep,
you. Well,
and
yeah, I'm grateful for this opportunity because I love spreading passion and good stuff. So
yep, absolutely, absolutely. So,
great.
all right. Well, I think we've covered everything we wanted to cover tonight. Is there anything else on your mind that you'd love to either share with the audience or challenge anybody to be thoughtful about as they go on to the rest of their work week?
No, I think I love the challenge. I think the biggest thing with mindfulness that I've learned is that the one thing that will get you through any crazy situation, and this is like science backed in terms of, is the breath, is
Okay.
focusing on your breath. I mean, people who have very high stress jobs like surgeons, doctors, those in the military, sniper rifle, like the very stressful things, they will do the type of breath. And I feel I'm embarrassed. I'm forgetting what kind it is, but it's basically you take a deep breath, you hold it in for a couple of seconds, and then your release, your as you exhale is longer than your inhale,
Yep.
and it just gets your brain right. It gets you hyper focused, and it just calms you down. There's a number to it. It's like, I don't know, is it like 3, 2, 6 or something like that? You breathe in for three, and then you hold for two, and then you
Yeah.
exhale for is twice as long
Yeah.
as you did. And that's just it's amazing. I work with it with my kids, but if I'm stressed out, like focusing on the breath will bring you right back, and
Yeah, just
that's the
controlled
biggest thing I can
breathing.
share.
Controlled breathing, right? Like try
It
to,
is.
and
It
again, it gives you
is
something to focus and center yourself on, but then also it oxygenates your body, right? It kind of helps
totally.
liven you up again.
Yeah.
So,
But that's the biggest thing that, like, wow, that really does work. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer
yep,
than others if you're really, you know,
very good.
worked up. But
Awesome.
anyway.
Well, Sally, we have managed to burn up 32 minutes. Believe that or not, right? That's awesome. And
Yeah.
and I think we've wrapped it up. And so you've
Yeah.
said some final thoughts. I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. And I'll remind the audience that don't forget to live large, right? And God bless everybody and have an amazing night. So,
All
Sally,
right.
you can hang tight for a minute. I'm going to wrap up the show right now. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Thank you.